Are we ready? Yes, doors closing. All right, good afternoon and welcome to our session. We will be talking about the Fellowship of an Advancement of ERGs, specifically Black ERGs. My name is Jo Wong. I work with Farfetch as a senior private client manager, but as well a content creator for lifestyle and career. I'm super excited to have these fantastic speakers here with me today. But before we go into that, ERGs. Does everyone know what an ERG is? No. So ERG stands for an employee resource group. Specifically, we're going to be speaking about the Black ERGs in many different companies. I think what was so interesting when I did a deep dive into ERGs is understanding how a lot of them came to fruition in the 1960s in the U.S. during a lot of racial tension. We saw the reemergence of them when we saw the ID&E reemergence after Black Lives Matter in 2020. And I think it just speaks a lot from history, right? So we have some great speakers here today to talk about their experiences. So I'm not going to keep myself anymore. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. So what I would love to know from all of you, first of all, a little bit of a brief overview of your professional experience, and then a little bit about, you know, how an ERG kind of impacted as well that journey. So I'll start with you, Anne.
Thanks, Jo. My name is Anne Alabi. I also actually work with Jo at Farfetch. I'm an executive assistant, but I'm also a Ben lead, but previously a Ben chair. I have worked in the fashion, entertainment, advertising industry for over 16 years. I'm showing my age. And also used to be a celebrity stylist. So for me, like, you know, Black, Joy, Excellence, and all those fields are kind of all an amalgamation into one. But yeah, I mean, that's a quick, brief overview of myself.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Hiba Grubel. I work at Microsoft, and I work in our partner ecosystem as a partner development manager. Basically, what that means is I work directly with Accenture and Avanar to help drive business together for our customers. And then I also have the privilege of being the business manager for our employee resource group, Embrace. We've been an ERG for just over 4 years now, and we are an ERG for all Black, Asian, and ethnic minority employees at Microsoft, as well as our allies. So it's not specifically a Black ERG, but I'll talk a little bit later on about how we're moving into kind of being representative of Black employees specifically. What else? My experience as a Black professional has been great. I've been at Microsoft for just over 3.5 years now, and it's been fantastic. Lots of positive experiences, and yes, there are some challenges, but I think on the whole, the ERG has really helped shape my kind of my career, has grown my network, and I've made lifelong friends. So that makes sense.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mahari Hayes. So I'm a director at Lloyds Bank, and my team looks after lending, trade, and working capital. That's our higher-end corporate clients who are turning over 100 mil on a yearly basis. But more importantly, so I've been with Lloyds for over 16 years, and in the infancy of my career, it was very difficult to progress because I felt I didn't have the support, or when I looked up the ladder, there was nobody I could lean upon to maybe get some career advice, guidance, CV review, mentorship, sponsorship, whatever it may be. So fast forward, and I, earned myself a seat at the table. My love and passion is driving the Bold Network. So those of you who know who the Bold Network is, so the Bold Network is the Black ERG in Lloyds Banking Group. I drive that with all my heart. I do things outside of my day job to make sure this is publicized, raise the visibility of the Bold Network. Anytime I'm invited to speak, I take no hesitation and I big them up as much as I can. There's so many Black talented individuals that sit within Lloyds, but I've gone a long time without hearing their voices being heard. So I co-chair this network with a wonderful lady by the name of Yvonne Robinson, who's been with the group much longer than myself and obviously has seen her own challenges. But I think we've really grasped what is happening over the last 3 years or so. And I hold my leaders accountable because would the Black Network have as much power if they had lifted their knee off George Floyd's neck? Simple answer is no. So right now, Black people are fashionable to a lot of organizations. It's the right thing to do, Black squares, all of that, whatever. Right? Now I've got the ear of the people, I will beat the drum as loud as possible because it's important. There are people that were doing brilliant things way before Black Lives Matter, and they're still doing brilliant things. And we shouldn't treat the 31 days in October as the only time we celebrate Black ERGs or Black people in general.
Yeah.
So,
I agree.
Thank you. And I think I love that connection, and I love how it really brings it back to really ERGs in general being started with companies was from that racial divide, racial tension, and how we did see the reemergence of that. So I'm going to ask some individual questions to get a deeper dive of all of you. So Anne, I've really enjoyed working with you on Ben, and I think our dynamic and collaboration with Ben, which is the network with Farfetch, Anne was a fantastic co-chair, but just because there's a co-chair doesn't mean as a member you can't collaborate and contribute. So I truly enjoyed doing that with you from a standpoint of a member. So in your opinion, have these ERGs played a pivotal role in your career, progression, and success at work?
So interestingly enough, like when I joined Farfetch, I actually never knew what ERG was, never heard of it. To all of our points, I think a lot of companies decided to create this space after the whole George Floyd, saga. So obviously joining Farfetch in 2021, virtually in lockdown, I literally on my first day, I was like, yeah, there's a Ben group. I was like, okay, what is that? It was like a place for a safe space for Black people to connect, get along, collaborate. So obviously the first year being a member, seeing what all the beautiful things that were happening, I was really driven to be I really want to be a part of this. And innately, I always like to give back. I love to mentor. I love to create. So it just was like a light bulb went off in my head. So when I So I had a lot of things in my mind. I had a tick-off list of what I wanted to do. I wanted to work with young kids. I wanted to interview someone in the fashion industry. I wanted to put on great events for the company. And be all glory to God, it all actually came to fruition. I actually ended up interviewing Edward Enninful last year for Black History Month, which was really, really epic. Just talking about his kind of journey as being editor-in-chief of Vogue, as a Black man, as a gay Black man, and just his kind of journey. So that was quite an insightful interview. But one of my biggest things to date was, becoming a non-executive director for a company called AMT Youth Program, which basically helps 16 to 18-year-olds have work experience in creative companies. Now, if I knew what I knew now back in school, I probably wouldn't have gone to a solicitor's place for a week. Didn't even really do it. I'm a creative. I had no business being there, but I had to choose something. So for me, obviously, as we all know, that tragic thing that happened to that girl last week, we're still kind of mourning, that whole situation. And I'm thinking that we really need to, for me, in my position, I really wanted to tackle the youth. Because if we can get them young and we can guide them, that was, for me, it was my calling. So how did it change my role? It really kind of navigated what I really wanted to do. Yes, I'm an executive assistant. I work within marketing. I look after the senior leadership team. But at the same time, it's okay, well, you just do the day-to-day. No one really takes you seriously as an assistant. But we actually do all the back work, the logistics, the emotional intelligence. So all of the skills that I had in my life, I transferred it over to my role. And it's just a lot of deep diving. And I won't lie, the first couple months, because I was actually chairing the UK and Portugal. I remember flying over to Portugal to meet our Ben members. It was very small, and it was very different to how they see themselves as Black in Portugal as it were to the UK or in the US. And we all have a different kind of lens on how we're treated being Black. So that was really quite insightful for me. But for me, it's, I'm quite gregarious naturally. So I had a plan, I put it into motion. And that's the thing, I had to, it's kind of like fight or flight. I had to say to my bosses, my bosses would be oh, that's amazing. I want to be an ally. Let me just turn up. And I'm like, don't just turn up to turn up. If you're not really in it, I'd rather you just not even be about it. Because for us, we're very passionate as Black people. So if you're going to come up, it's not always when the times are great, when the times are rough, having those difficult conversations, race in the workplace, that kind of, all of those kind of things that companies do that they just want to tick off their list. And for us, it's a very much of a real thing. So, yeah, it really just elevated me in my company, and it just kind of gave me more of a voice. And it did, I did essentially end up becoming a non-executive director off the back of being a chair. So my point is, whatever it means to you, whatever list that you have, whatever goal you have, it is all transferable. But the one thing I would say is if you're not passionate, then just don't even bother. Because I started out with having a co-chair. he left 3 months in, and then I ended up carrying the whole community for a year on my own. And it was a lot. I won't lie to you. Come January 2023, I was done. I was broken. But at the end of the day, if I can turn around and people say you did a great job, like, oh my God, I want to do this. And just even how I got to do with BYP, like I went to their launch party in the new year, and I met one of the panelists, Shantia, I think, from Gartner, and I asked her a question, and then literally about 3 people in different stages, like within the year, was like, oh, you're that girl from BYP, like you were making so many great points. And I was like, oh, like you just never know where it's going to take you and just where it's going to lead you. But if you want to be part of an ERG or run an ERG and you know that's something that you're passionate about, then I would say go for it. Yeah.
No, completely agree. And I think the philanthropy work you've done within the ERG really speaks about taking it externally.
100%.
And that's been fantastic in terms of the success in which you've been able to see in a promotion. A lot of times taking a co-chair role in an ERG allows you to get that leadership experience, get exposure to different people in different levels. And I think, ultimately, as you can hear from my American accent, I'm not from the UK. I got here because of a mobility program in an ERG. I was in a Black talent program, and they brought me to the UK, and that's why I'm here. So I think that's very powerful and fantastic.
And just one last thing as well. I think as well, when you are in that space, you actually do get a lot more time with our sponsor was our chief financial officer, Elliot Jordan, and it's really quite hard to have these conversations with them and say, look, this is what I'm hearing from my people, and obviously a company can do what they can do in their power, but I think Mahari's point is if they're not really going to really back it financially or really take it all the way, it's not just going to be a fashionable thing. I'd say Black people, we still kind of get the brunt because it's like you want to help us and then you kind of leave us halfway when it's no longer fashionable, but then we're the ones that have to pick up the pieces. We're the ones dealing with the emotional conversations. We're the ones dealing with people saying, I didn't get promotion, I haven't been seen, what do I need to do? We need to do more development within the company. And I'm like, it's a bit more than that. So I don't want to highlight, Black people need the most help, but we do need the most help if we're giving a fair chance and we all have a seat at the table.
Agree, thank you. Ibak, I'm going to skip you and go to Mahari. First of all, congratulations on your recent award in your Black Talent. So congrats. So would love to know from your opinion how ERGs are vital for the success of Black professionals.
So I don't want to put the success of Black professionals on the ERGs alone, because it's not up to the ERG to help elevate Black people, right? We're there as a support network in a big oiled machine, right? What I'm creating within Lloyd's is a safe space, because sometimes the people in the network might not have the seat at the table to speak to those who have the influence to kind of say, this is what's happening on the ground. Mahari, Yvonne, can you take this to X and really have this real heart-to-heart conversation, right? So that way you're engaging people from a hearts and mind perspective, right? Because things won't change if they don't understand why they need to change. So we can talk about numbers and we can talk about figures and we can talk about all these different things. But if somebody who's in a position of influence and power and that can actually change things don't understand, so I need to be able to articulate the voice of the people to say, this ain't me, this is what's actually happening, right? People, I'm not saying people are going to get up and leave right? But there's something actually happening, and if you're not listening to what's happening, you're going to have a new target, which shows people who are leaving the organization because they don't feel appreciated while they're here, right? So this is why I'm so conscious of the Bold Network and who we bring in as working group members, because they need to get it, right? It can't just sit on me and Yvonne to have a conversation with this CEO and this leader, right? It's for the working group to come in so I can share the load. So when opportunities come like this to speak, I'm preaching to the choir. Whole heap of Black people in there, right? You get it. You understand the voices. You understand the cry. But it's about when you take this from here and you say, listen, Mr. X, this is what's happening. Don't mix your words. You're not being disrespectful. You're saying this is an organization that's been running for 250 plus years. Somebody died 3 or 4 years ago, and now you're trying to pattern up. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? I've only been with the organization 15, 16 years. There are black people in Lloyds that's been there 40, 50 years.
Wow.
What did they go through 30, 40 years ago?
Massively.
Right? And I'm not I'm saying we now have to change the narrative where action is speaking louder than words, where you're showing them. And the thing is, you do get a lot of leaders who are interested in wanting to change, but sometimes they don't know how.
Yeah.
So you need to have a plan in place to say, this is how you can help. Right? Have something, be ready to articulate the actions that you have for your ERG to say, this is how I believe in your area, because in my organization, there are some areas that outperform other areas, right? Depending on what their targets are, etc. You could say, here's an area that is doing it really well, lift and drop, tweak, right? Because the deliverables might be different. So let's just look at best practices to say this is somebody or a leader who doesn't identify as black heritage, but they get it.
Yeah.
Let's have a conversation. Let's pick their brains. What is it that you're doing in your particular area that we can lift and drop in my area?
I love that. Thank you. And what was so interesting is it made me think about, we all have heard, you know, we need to increase black talent. We need more black talent in leadership roles, whatnot. And what you touched on was so important because it was also, what about your current black talent, right? How do you retain them? How do you also empower them? And how do you also see movement in them? And that's kind of, to your point, how the ERG came in. It wasn't, let's go recruit more and have them come to an organization and we're not retaining them and they're not in the right environment, you know? So I think that's really important as well, is the ERG being there as a support to set guidance, but not solve the problem, right? Because the problem was there way before the ERG was there, right? So going through that, thank you so much. Hibag, I love all the roles you've had with Microsoft. They've been fantastic. Can you share a memorable moment or a significant moment within an ERG that had a significant impact on you professionally and personally in terms of growth?
I think I will go with two probably memorable moments, and I'm very fortunate enough to have, you know, many memorable moments within my time in the ERG. I think, to your point earlier and to your point just now, I think we really focus on not only attracting talent but also retaining them. So two ends of the spectrum, two programs that we have that I'd love to touch on that I think have been incredibly impactful to me personally to be a part of. One is our mentoring program. So we work with a fantastic organization called EDI, which stands for Everything Diversity and Inclusion. And it's a mentoring program with them, but just, you know, to give you that understanding of where it started from and where it is now, I'll kind of add a bit of color to the journey that we've been on. So we had a couple of interns, I think maybe 4-5 years ago, who kind of joined and said to our chair, Zephaniah, at the time, what are we doing? Like, you know, there's nowhere for black people to come. And this is from interns to someone who's quite senior in our organization. You know, what are we doing? Can we kind of create something that we can all kind of come together with? And it got him and a few other senior leaders thinking, what are we actually doing? And, you know, looking around, you kind of wonder, if it's not me, then who's gonna do something? And so that was how the employee resource group actually started. And 4 years later, we, you know, started with 10 people. Now we have over 700 community members from, you know, as I mentioned, not only black employees but also our allies, which are super important to bring them along on that journey.
Yep.
And so our mentoring program, you know, again, we started with 10 students that we mentor, and we had 10 Microsoft employees that kind of joined that mentoring program. And, you know, now, you know, 3 years later, we just wrapped up our third cohort, and we are mentoring 600 students, all from black and ethnic minority backgrounds, and we have 300 Microsoft employees that are willing to take out their time to kind of mentor these students and kind of continue that relationship with them, you know, beyond the program and when it finishes. And we're seeing these students go on to have, you know, successful professional careers and, you know, raising aspirations. And I think that is a testament to, you know, the work that we're doing within the employee resource group and the amount of impact it's having externally. The second thing that we're doing, and, you know, we talk about retaining talent in Microsoft, it's really important that, you know, to your point earlier, you want to make sure that the black employees in your organization feel like they can have a growing career and feel like they can get to places and senior positions, and then that there isn't a glass ceiling that they can't reach. And we've got a program called Strategies for Success, which is targeting mid to senior level professionals who want to take that next step in becoming kind of a senior professional at Microsoft in our organization, and we're working really closely with HR. So we have a HR sponsor in our ERG, and we work closely with them to figure out kind of how can we pair them up with a partner or a director and someone who is at that level that can support them. And, you know, where we can find someone who's a Black, you know, director and a partner at that level, fantastic. But, you know, as I said, allies are incredibly important, so we also bring them along on that journey as well. And we've seen that program become really successful, so that's been another highlight of mine.
No, that's incredible. And I've been the benefactor of that, right? So when I was with Estee Lauder companies, I was in that same exact, very, very similar program. And I thought what's so interesting is you nailed something when you talked about the type of sponsor you get connected to. And I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to have this fierce Black woman be my sponsor. And then I did not get one. And I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. And it was such an amazing experience because he let me, it was a white male, and he let me into certain conversations and experiences and I never would have been privy to, you know, and then I also got to reverse sponsor him, you know, and give him exposure of, well, this is what it's like for me day to day at work. These are the conversations I've had. These are the meetings I'm not allowed to be in. And it was such an incredible experience. And what was so interesting coming out of that is they continued the program because they saw, you know, when you look at different organizations and you're seeing the Black representation, it does start to dwindle, right? And then what this program did was, why? What are the gaps? Why are we not seeing the progression? So huge benefactor of that. And I strongly recommend if anyone's here in an ERG and you're thinking of what kind of programs can we do, what do the employees want? They want that exposure. They want to be in different rooms with senior executives and co-sponsors to be able to elevate as well.
And just to add one more point, you know, I feel like mentoring is a really interesting, situation. I feel like personally for me, you can go through 3 or 4 mentors before you find the right one.
Agree.
And I feel like it's really important to get that broad kind of variety of mentors, people that look like you, but also people that don't look like you. To your point specifically, to have those conversations about, you know, what am I not experiencing that you are that I can gain things from. So I think, you know, I think from the feedback that we've gotten from not only the students, but the Strategies for Success program, that has been the key thing that has come out is that exchange of experiences that other person hasn't had that can be shared. And again, that reverse mentoring piece is incredibly key.
Of course. I'm super excited to now put it out to the audience. So what questions do you guys have on? It could be on ERGs, our experience, not all at once.
Couple at the back over there.
I don't know if we have a mic to go back there. Okay, that's fine. I'll repeat it back.
So I think it was from saying your name, right?
Yes.
You mentioned how important allies are, and I work for both spaces. And that's been kind of one area that we've been trying to get more engagement from. So how do you engage your allies?
Great.
That's a great question. So our exec sponsor actually is an ally. And we've had a couple that have left the organization and kind of gone into different roles. But our first ally, when I joined the ERG, was actually the CFO as well. His name's Paul Benjamin, a fantastic, Black man in a senior position who really advocated for us and drove kind of the strategy and the vision that we had and worked closely with us. So that was fantastic. And now the current exec sponsor that we have is a white male. His name's Chris Perkins, and he runs our commercial enterprise business, so a senior position as well. But honestly, every ask that we've had, he's been there. Every meeting that we've needed to have with him or kind of emails that we wanted to send. It's Black History Month. We've got a lot of activity happening at the moment. He's there. He's willing to support. He's willing to jump on a call. His team are always there to support us. And I think how we, engaged with him was, the HR sponsor. Reaching out to the HR sponsor and seeing if there was anyone that would be willing to be an exec sponsor for us. And then I think for our community members, we were very specific when we first started the ERG that we couldn't do a Black-only ERG because there just wasn't that many of us. There would be like 10 people if we did that. So we were conscious in the decision of opening it up to ethnic minority, Asian, all employees as well as our allies. So we've always been open for everyone to join and for it to be an inclusive space where people can learn from each other. And our tenets and our foundation that we do everything on is 3 things. We aim to inspire, we aim to celebrate, and we aim to educate. And those are the three things that we kind of build all of our work on. And I almost think of our ERG as like a mini business. We've got our co-chairs, we've got the business manager, we've got the HR sponsor, and then we have every person who's part of the leadership team has a pillar that they look after. So the programs lead, partnership leads, so working with, our competitors, Google, Salesforce, how can we work with them and drive success together? Because at the end of the day, we're Black employees, but we're everywhere. It's not just what we're doing in Microsoft. It's really about that exchange of learning and success that we've all had. And then we've got other, marketing roles, etc. But having that open to everyone has been key. And we've seen a lot of people have joined and felt like they can really ask questions and learn about what their colleagues' experiences are, what their celebrations are, what their religious beliefs are. And so that has been fantastic.
Sorry. Just as a juxtaposition, because when you touched on about, your ERGs, for kind of all different kind of ethnic groups, it's funny because at Farfetch, we actually have, I think, 10 people communities. So at Farfetch, we have Ben, then we have Far Out for the LGBTQ, we have the Jewish Network, we have FEN for Southeast Asian. So for us, we kind of broke it out into bits. And I'll keep saying, in terms of allies, when you said, we kind of put it out there that anybody that wants to be a sponsor or ally, for us in the Ben community, we were very, very, very listen, if you can't come into this space and not really ride for us, because not to say that any other race is different, but as the Black race, there is so much that we go through, the sensitivity of us spiritually and how we come up and how we show up, especially in a creative environment, because obviously Farfetch is a tech company, but it's, a lot of the people, we have people from the law department, marketing, whatever, but the one common goal that we have is the struggle is real. Do you know what I mean? The struggle is real. And when you look at, it's almost like when I say you go to buy makeup, there's different shades of foundation, but the ones, and this is why Rihanna broke the mold when we had so many different darker shades, and that's a whole nother conversation about, colorism and all of that jazz. But we did say, look, our sponsor was the CFO, but he was a gay white man. So he's already a minority. So he got it from that perspective. So if we couldn't get anyone, we'd rather do it on our own, because it's, to Mahari's point, it's creating that safe space. And, a lot of Black people don't want to say what they really feel to the chief of people or the VP of this, just in case it might come back to bite you. And that's something that we had to learn very quickly, we really need to know that this is really not going to go anywhere. And even also as well, I noticed even within the own community, everybody has their own version of what Black means to them being a Black person. If you grew up in Kent or I grew up in Peckham or West London, my version of Black is not your version of Black, even though we're all Black. And I think once we understand, and I'd hate to say this, not all skin focus. Was it all skin focus? Yeah, I know it. Yeah, it's skin folk. And I know it sounds kind of left, but it's also as well there's a tribe within a tribe within a tribe. But once we get that whole basis of understanding and that trust factor, trust being the operative word, I think then we can move forward in a very positive space.
Yeah, definitely. And just to echo all that, and I'll get to the next question. It's making sure you create very strong safety within the ERG, because it's an employee resource group. Yeah. You can have big events and invite everyone, but making sure you create that safety. There was another question. Yes.
So I lead the ERG at my company for the financial ERG. And one thing I'm keenly aware of is with my leadership team, they've got a day job and I have a day job.
Yeah.
And how have you managed preventing burnout of yourselves, doing the work, the necessary work of the ERG, and doing the necessary work that you're getting paid?
Great question. Anyone?
I talk about this thing.
Yeah, so I don't mind to quickly take this if that's all right, Mari. It's funny you just said that, because like I said, when I got to the end of my tenure, I'm not gonna lie, I was burnt out. But like I said, it's usually it's a voluntary thing. I mean, at some point, I think a couple of years ago, they were paying the chairs just like a little kind of token, like a thank you. But I can't stress this enough. If this is not something that you're really passionate about, then you're gonna kind of find it as like an extra role. But if you're being seen and you're being heard and you're getting the backing of your company, your sponsors, you will get like this kind of second wind. It will become like second to none. But also as well, and I think as well, and I had to tell my line manager, who was a VP, they don't actually understand, like, it is a role. It's like 40% of your day job. Do you know what I mean? So having that clear line of communication about, look, I'm doing this for the ERG, I've got my day job and everything else, I'm a dad, I'm a mum, and whatever the case may be, I would just say clear lines of communication. But I think, it's like if we go out and we go marching for something that we believe in, or, whatever, it's that burning desire, you will find a way to kind of, continue. But obviously, it takes a village to raise a child, as it were.
Yeah, I think also delegation of the community. It is not just all on you. Yes. I made that mistake the first time I kind of worked with one, but so many people in the community want to help, and you might be like, I've been given this task, so let me lead and suffer in silence. And if you just put it out there and said, who would love to support on this event, or who has ideas about this, you would be so surprised how many people want to contribute. That's the only way you'll be successful, because at the end of the day, you're right, you have a day job, right? So I strongly encourage the delegation of the community, and that's what makes ERGs amazing.
So yeah, what was I going to say? So med something with me for a minute. Sorry. It's the Jamaican in me. When I talk, like, I just zone out. So forgive me, right? So when I say med something with me, just picture this. So when I think about your ERG and I think about my one in particular, spreading the load is what happens, right? So you have the voice of the people, sits with Yvonne and I, right? But I have a working group of 17 people who handle different parts and strands of the network. So you have comms, you have events, you have mentorship. Because we have a branch network, branch-facing colleagues, we have a particular person that looks after that. You're sharing the load amongst like-minded people to help carry that. So there might be 3 or 4 of these happening today. I know I'm at one, if we need to be. Yep. Someone else could be at another one. But we all have a one vision of what this looks like. So if somebody asks you what does success look like for your ERG, everybody is singing the same song.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Everybody knows. They can just pick up and go. I get requests all the time to come and speak at this meeting, come and speak at that meeting. I will say yes, because I know I have 3 or 4 people who can just drop of a hat can articulate and sing exactly what Bold is about and what they need from other people to help support and make this, network be successful. And just to come back to your question about allyship and getting people, the best way to get people on your side who are not from Black heritage is to capture the story of those who are not Black. Yeah. And what I mean by that is, so I created a campaign called Standing Together. It was a racial campaign for Black people that only featured white people. So me being here today and talking to you is me preaching to the choir, because you lot get it. Why do you want to hear my story and rallying call, right? The largest demographic in my organization is white heritage. So if I can find members who want to share their story, why they support or why they believe a Black ERG needs to be fruitful, needs to be successful, it's a known fact. A more diverse organization is a more successful organization.
100%.
So if you get about why he supports this, why he believes it's right, you'll get another white person who wants to tune into that story to understand why is this person so in tune. When they see me telling that story, it's just another Black person telling me why I should love Black people. But why does, and I'll say his name's Stephen, why is Stephen speaking or going so passionately about this cause? Yeah. I need to tune into that because, one, he looks like me. I can, like how you guys identify with me. So you know I'm a Black person, so there's certain mannerisms and the way I carry myself and do my thing, right? But when a white person articulates that, there's a particular audience that they're speaking to, and they just want to hear for a second, right? So even if you got 3 or 4 people that's on tune now, you're reaching a particular demographic without you opening your mouth. Yeah. Yep. So find those allies or those sponsors that you already have and say, I would like to do a quick interview with you or a newsletter to find out your thoughts on Black History Month. Why is it that it means so much to you? And what you'll find is you'll get a huge reaction, sometimes, where it worked for us, and we're an organization of 60,000 people, right? Capture their story and put it out there and say, yo, have you heard what Stephen's saying? This is why it's so passionate to him, right? This is a white guy that's grown up, very rural area. His daughter's now married a Nigerian guy. He's going to Nigerian weddings.
Look what you started. Look what you started.
Theme, ting, mash up now. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Can I just...
Yeah, go ahead. And then
really
I see you. We'll have one more question.
Really quickly to your point, as an ERG lead, you probably know how much time and effort goes into it, and everything's driven by passion because you don't get paid extra to do it. Two things, practical tips. I work at Microsoft. We're a products-based company. So the things that I do is on Outlook, I color code my calendar and how much time I'm spending on ERG activities. Really and typically it's 10 to 15% when, things are okay, but 20% when it's Black History Month, when it's Lunar New Year, or times where it's really important for us to kind of put in that extra time. So I think that's number one. And the second thing that I would say is, this is all voluntary. At Microsoft in the US, for example, people have specific roles where their full-time job is to drive the Blacks at Microsoft. But again, as I explained, we're a smaller ERG at the moment. But one thing that you can't let is the day job slip, because at the end of the day, we all have jobs and we have to drive output and revenue for our organization. So I think that's the number one key thing that I always remember when things are getting too tough. You got to take a step back and look at how we, as you guys talked about, how we can delegate and share that load across the entire team. And I spoke earlier to your question about how we're built as an ERG, almost like a mini business, and everyone has their role and everyone can kind of come in when things are getting a little bit crazy. Like now it's Black History Month. I'm here, my chair is, somewhere else doing something else. So how can we all kind of come together?
Agreed. Yes, I know.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Firstly, Mahari, that was a really interesting point. I didn't think about that. That threw me off a little bit. But I'll be interested to find out a little bit more about what are those stories, why are they interested in Black History Month? So I'll come to that. And then to Joe, is it Joe?
Yeah.
Joe. Yeah, Joe. No.
Oh, no.
Anne. Yourself?
Yeah.
You said something about the ERG creating a safe space, and you mentioned that there was this gay white male and the CFO, etc. And you kind of didn't want to engage him because
No, we did engage him. He was our sponsor because he was a minority.
Okay.
So,
What I'm trying to understand is that you're creating a safe space, but how do you then use that safe space to move the needle in places that you need to move the needle, like maybe senior execs, etc.
Yeah.
So if you just articulate those 2 points.
100%. So I don't know if I wasn't clear. So our exec sponsor was also the sponsor for Far Out, which is for the LGBTQ. So already him being a minority as a gay man and his passion about being a gay man and what it was like, and he's obviously a bit older than us, so that was his buy-in, and he was just very much just passionate about what Black people go through. So to Mahari's point about his story resonated with us, so we were like, okay, he was the best fit for us to make him our exec sponsor. Now, how do we move the needle? So every month the chairs would have calls with the CFO and the chief of people, and then we would basically feed back to him and say, hey, this is what we've done, a deep dive, and when we're speaking to our community, they're looking for learning and development. They want courses on how to upskill. They need this. They might want to do an MBA, or they might want to do a course on this. And what we realized is the continuing theme line was we want to have promotion. We want to be seen. We want to, how do we break the glass ceiling? So then we created a program called APUS, which would highlight 10 performing Black employees and then give them like a mentorship, and they would be like yourself, paired with an exec sponsor within the company, and they would go through that kind of course, and at the end of it they would hopefully get either a promotion or they'll be en route to a promotion. So it's just about obviously having that conversation and feeding back what the actual community wants, and him being the CFO, number one, is banging because he does sign off, so the man the man with the money is right there, and then having our chief of people, who is also obviously the people community, the HR, having those two in conjunction with the Ben community was exactly what we needed. But once again, it's all about funding. And I know that right now, a lot of companies, especially in America, are getting rid of DE&I, their chief DE&Is and director DE&Is. So just to kind of quickly segue, how do we, once there's no more money, then it's like, it's like the candle goes out. So it's like we have to still continue, and it's very hard to continue because DE&I in itself is a whole. It needs funding. It's not cheap, and if the company doesn't recognise this as a core thing to drive black talent because retention is the new recruitment. This is what where we are right now. Retention is the new recruitment. So to have that conversation and say, look, okay, people are cutting costs here and there, but this is something that is very functional and a very core part of our business, and it's down. If it comes from the top, it will just fall down to the bottom. And if the top doesn't really believe in it, well, then we're kind of back to square one.
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, and I do want to get to that question, but there's one in the back. But, specifically to what you're talking about in terms of moving the needle, with ERGs, please make sure it's a contribution on both ends. Yeah. And it's not for your organization to check a box and say, we have a Black ERG, we're good to go. But as an ERG, if you're a co-chair one, a member one, it's also holding the business accountable that they're delivering what they're supposed to. 100%. So I think that's really, really important. Yes? Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh.
Do you want to? Yeah, certainly. So I'll give you one of the stories. When we refer back to that guy, Stephen, so his daughter went to uni, met her partner, Nigerian guy, they're married now. So around the time when the England football team got knocked out, 3 black guys missed the penalties, right? Yeah. Oh, so his daughter's partner lived in a very rural area, predominantly white heritage. So this event has happened. His parents have woken up in the morning and found a ton of banana peel skins on their front doorsteps. Wow. They're from a small community. So these are people that they've all grown up with and they know the family. Who's driving from London to find this one black family to throw banana skins at their thing? So that means the community that they're in are harboring these feelings towards this family. So Stephen's now shared this on camera. This is why it's important to me. Because now Nigerian heritage is going to be a part of his life forever. Because he was talking about when my daughter has children, they'll be half Nigerian, half white, British, English. So he sat there and he's just told this story to say, this is exactly what I mean. I've grown up in a town where, never experienced any racism, but my daughter has grown up. She's gone to university, very multicultural, and she's met a partner. But I wanted to capture the story. I'd love to show it to you, but, it's internal. Make your ball. Like real. Yeah. Because I know if I'm not connecting with you from a heart and mind perspective and I'm just throwing out numbers with you about D&I, it's long.
It's not,
Here's a leader that you sit down and talk numbers about how to change the economic climate of one of the largest banks in the UK. Here's a leader telling you, why my ball? Because his partner, parents suffered such an injustice from people who they go and shop around with and have tea with. Obviously, they don't know who it is, but it's a small town on the outskirts of. But it's like to wake up and see that on your doorstep over a football game. Now you have to do better than that.
People buy into people. That's all it is at the end of the day.
So it's about capturing real stories that they're willing to share. Give them that psychological safety to understand. So we gave them the due diligence to speak to somebody who was a well-trained mental health and well-being person to say, just talk to me about why this is important. Don't tell me about Black History Month. Why is the Black agenda so important to you? And through that, just one-on-one conversation that came out. And then I said, Steve, you want to capture that on camera so I can show everybody? He said, absolutely. And then I just showed that clip with a mixture of other 4 clips linked to real stories like that. People are lining up. White heritage, Asian. So I can't believe, Stephen, you suffered that or your family went through that. What can we do to support?
I hate to cut off, but this has been an amazing discussion, and it's so good. Unfortunately, we are up on time, but we will all be around. Please do stop any of us if you have additional questions. Please connect with us. You have all our names. Connect with us on LinkedIn, on social media, to continue this conversation. But really, as a closing, I really want to reiterate how important your participation, your identification, your contribution to ERGs are. All of us have had the impact of it. And, I really encourage, if you do not have an ERG in your organization, start the conversation, start looking into it. Or if there is one at a different level, maybe join and understand it a little bit more. So thank you guys so much for your questions.
Thank you guys so much.
It's been a pleasure.